Imagine sending a soldier into one of the most dangerous stretches of land on the planet, a place where snipers wait, artillery never stops, and every step forward could be your last. Now imagine removing that soldier entirely. No risk, no fear, no funeral, just a machine rolling forward, taking every bullet, every explosion, every RPG blast, and still moving, still fighting. That is not a movie script. That is happening right now, in real time, on the front lines of one of the most brutal wars the world has seen in decades. And the country pulling it off is not the United States, it is not China, it is not Russia, it is Ukraine, a nation that, by almost every traditional military measure, should be outgunned and overwhelmed. Instead, it is quietly rewriting the rules of modern warfare, one robot at a time. And by the time this video is over, you will understand exactly how they are doing it, why it is working, and what it means for every military on the planet going forward. Here is something most people do not realize. The idea of sending machines to fight instead of men is not a new one. It has been a military dream for over 100 years. Back in 1915, France was already experimenting with remote-controlled explosive drones, 20 of them, putting them into active service. With the Second French Army during the First World War, a decade and a half later, the Soviet Union was building what they called the Picture a tank, fully armed with a machine gun, but with no crew inside, just a remote operator somewhere behind the lines, steering it forward into enemy territory. These teletanks were actually deployed in combat, first during the brutal Winter War between the USSR and Finland, and then again in the opening stages of the war against Germany in 1941. Around that same period, the United Kingdom was quietly working on its own version, a radio-controlled infantry tank they codenamed the Black Prince. Different countries, different eras, same dream. Build something that fights, so your people do not have to die doing it. But here is the thing. For decades, every single one of these programs eventually hit the same wall. The technology was either too expensive, too unreliable, too complicated to scale, or some combination of all three. Governments would pour money into development, run into problems, and eventually pull the plug. The dream would get shelved. And for most of the 20th century, and into the early 21st, armed ground robots remained exactly where they started, as a concept, not a reality. Until Ukraine changed everything. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022, Ukraine was immediately faced with a problem that had no easy answer. Russia had more soldiers, more tanks, more artillery, more missiles, and a defense budget that dwarfed Ukraine's by enormous margins. Fighting a conventional war against those kinds of numbers was not a sustainable path. So Ukraine did what it has done repeatedly throughout this conflict. It got creative, it got fast, and it got unconventional. In the early days of the war, Ukrainian commanders began noticing small numbers of uncrewed ground vehicles appearing on the battlefield. Some were imported, most were basic. But even in those rough, early forms, military leaders could see the potential clearly. A machine that could move through contested territory, absorb damage, suppress enemy positions, and do it all without a single Ukrainian life at risk. That was not just useful, that was potentially a game changer. So the order went out. Develop more, develop faster, develop better. And Ukraine's defense sector responded in a way that has genuinely shocked military analysts around the world. If you are finding this breakdown valuable, take 2 seconds and hit the subscribe button. Every week we break down the real mechanics of modern warfare. No fluff, no filler, just the stories and analysis that actually matter.